So, hold the line, community and gamers. We are here with some developers from Giant SpaceKat. Introductions.
Sure. My name is Brianna Wu. I'm head of development at Giant SpaceKat. SpaceKat, actually. And I'm here with my lead animator, Amanda Warner.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having us.
Oh, much appreciated. We've been trying to do this for like the last week.
I've had a lot of interviews scheduled, but getting it like scheduled with you has been like planning a space shuttle launch or something. It has been absolutely crazy getting the three of us together.
Yeah, we have an interesting community that is completely international based. So trying to schedule stuff has just always been fun for everybody.
I feel. So I have a question about you guys. Is Hold the Line that has to be a reference to Mass Effect 1, right?
We started, to put it simply, we started out the whole retake Mass Effect thing. That's where it came from. If you ask our admin, he is from the military, so Hold the Line has a different meaning to him.
Yeah.
But anyone that you mostly ask on our forums or our website will say it came from the Major Carney speech from Mass Effect and Mass
That
Effect.
dude is awesome. They should make the Mass Effect 4 should be entirely about that guy. I would just follow him doing anything. Like, that would be great. That would be great.
But yeah, so that's what it depends who you ask, really.
I feel you. I feel you. Amanda, did you ever finish playing Mass Effect 2? Did you ever finish that?
I wasn't even able to crack it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, and I didn't want to jump in midstream. I know you can,
Right.
but I really, in order to give it its due justice, like I really need to play it from the beginning. So I really, yeah, I need to borrow that.
It's the irony of us spending so much time developing a game with so many overtones, from Mass Effect, and having so many features like Pod Wheel, and you've never even played it. Like, that's hilarious to me. That's awesome.
Hey, I poured my heart and soul into Heavy Rain, which is the other key component. So I kind of feel like you got
Got
that covered. And you talk about it often enough that I feel like I know it. So.
Okay. Awesome. So anyway, we are here for you today. Like, do you have any questions for us?
That I do.
All right.
So,
all right.
as you had mentioned, Amanda, your game has been inspired by Heavy Rain and Mass Effect. If I am not mistaken, wasn't the original intent a overhead type strategy game?
Oh yeah. That was the first iteration that we came up with. And that's when I first met Brianna, that's what I had signed on for. I was like, oh great, we're gonna make sprites and it's gonna be like this total, it's gonna be easy, da da da. And then, as we got going, and she was looking at some of the other stuff I was doing, she's like, we're totally just underutilizing you in this platform and everything that we could be doing with this. So the story suddenly evolved and got much broader, and it suddenly opened all these doors. So it's not like, oh my God, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this, and then we can do this, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, it really. I don't know if you've ever read about Steve Jobs and Wozniak when they were starting Apple, but the fact that they had no idea what they were doing was such a huge advantage. And for me at the beginning, I will never forget this conversation with Amanda, and I'm like, "Oh, Amanda, it's going to be easy. This is just some animation cycles." And like, I had no idea of the scope of the project that we were signing up for. And it's like it's 3 years later, and we got it. Like, we're putting out a great game, but it's a little bit more work than we had planned on in the first place.
With that, what engine is it you guys decided to use for those that might not know about development and game making in
Sure.
general?
Absolutely. So when we first started putting our project together, Epic had just announced the Unreal Engine was coming to iOS. Unreal, if you don't know, is it's what Mass Effect uses. It's what Dragon Age uses. It's the engine that Unreal, interestingly enough, uses. And it had been brought to iOS. So what was really exciting about that was a lot of games are made with the kind of core animation APIs of Xcode and the iPhone. But what was really exciting about that is when Unreal was brought to the Apple devices, we had all these cinematic scripting tools. In particular, I specialize in Kismet and cinematic scripting. So what it allows you to do is put together really elaborate cutscenes or dialogue wheels or events with interrupts. It's an incredibly sophisticated engine. The Apple native tools literally have nothing anywhere near this for 3D. So we saw that they brought this great engine to the platform with this extremely mature development pipeline. And we just took advantage of it. Amanda, I cannot say enough great things about her skill. She is one of the best animators I've ever seen. And we looked at our team's skills and we put together a game that really played to our strengths.
You mentioned the event system is inspired by Heavy Rain and Mass Effect. Is it a little less, I don't want to say binary, but is it a little less one way than the other, like Heavy Rain got the success or failure of Mass Effect, whereas Heavy Rain tends to mold the story to whether or not you succeed or fail?
Well, can you explain a little bit more about the question? I'm not sure I'm quite following.
Heavy Rain morphed the story kind of whether or not you completed an objective and just kind of moved on. Mass Effect had, your renegade interrupts and
Sure.
various other things, but for the most part, the story pretty much stayed the same.
Right.
Is it more of the Heavy Rain style of storytelling, or is it more of like the main focused, this is the story we're telling, you have some influence on it, but not nearly as much as, say, like Heavy Rain?
Well, I could tell you this. Amanda and I finished we actually finished diagramming out the possibilities for the ending. And Amanda, do you want to describe what your eyes did when I showed you the flowchart? I mean,
Bugged right out of my head. My anxiety level went up a little bit. No, I mean I'd say we're trying to fall somewhere in between.
Yeah, I think
it's a small game, and we're a small team, so we can't let it branch off into infinity. But we really want the players to have choice and feel like they have influence. So thank God for flowcharts. Thank God for flowcharts.
Right. I feel like Heavy Rain did do a superior job on that. And, with me knowing Kismet as well as I do, I literally, when I play Mass Effect, I see the charts and the branches that they do, when I play Mass Effect. But we have a larger dimension of choices that you go down. It's not just Renegade, and Paragon. We have actually 5 dimensions of affinity, 6 really that you could have, and they all have massive consequences on your ending. So, that said, we are a small team. There's no way that 5, 6 people can create a Mass Effect. So we're doing the best we can. But I think when people look at our game, I think they're going to be overwhelmed by what we've done. I think it's by far some of the best work the platform's ever had.
Which that sounds really interesting because I was always a fan of the Heavy Rain and what Quantic Dreams always does with their games. Beyond Two Souls looks crazy, like most of their stuff normally is. Mass Effect, it gave you the illusion of this is the story that it's a singular story for the most part with it's directed story, I guess you could call it, but it felt like you had some influence on it, and that kind of game mechanics and gameplay has always interested me personally. Why did you choose to use a grid style battle system for combat?
Well, Amanda, do you want to take that one?
When first talked about putting in the battle system, we threw out a couple different options that we wanted. What we didn't want was something that was cookie cutter to Infinity Blade, or there are many versions of that out there. At the same time, like we really wanted to make sure that we were utilizing the touchpad. I've heard Bree talk about this many times, and one of the things out there is if you're trying to do a touchpad game with the invisible joysticks, like it's a utter failure, terrible. Ugh. So we wanted to do something that was kind of, it would be intuitive. It would feel like you were still active. You are an active participant, but it's almost like a turn-based kind of scenario. So you're still tapping and telling it where to go and utilizing that touch interface without getting super frustrated by trying to control direction and all that stuff. So that's kind of how we ended up on this grid system. And then we still wanted to incorporate that cinematic bit, and that's when the special attacks come in and again reflects back to the QuickTime event triggers that we've been using, throughout the game. So hopefully it's this nice marriage of chess and X-Men versus Capcom versus
Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah. I'm like X-Men.
Right. Well, that was another one, but it was I cannot say enough great things about our game designer, because the design document I had for it originally, we literally threw out the window. It was just an untenable idea. And then we brought Jenna Hofstein into our game, and she came up with this completely original idea. When we demoed our combat system at PAX, we got nearly universal praise from it. We feel like it's one of the most successful things that we've done. I think it is an entirely new game type for iOS. I think you are fighting for positional superiority in real time, and I think executing special attacks rather than with Marvel versus Capcom, where you're trying to do very complicated button presses. I think doing it with shapes and sliders on the screen is it's a very exciting way to fight, and I think people have been very attracted to that.
I know on the tablets that I own and trying to game on them, like Amanda, you mentioned the invisible joysticks. They're terrible. Like I love some of the Game Loft games. Don't get me wrong, the Modern Combat and all that stuff. But I'm sorry, the invisible joysticks with the buttons that are crammed too close to the other stuff that do other things, they make no sense.
Well, there's nothing more frustrating. Yeah, and like Sonic. Like Sonic 2 came out for with the invisible joysticks. You can't play Sonic with that. You can't play Streets of Rage with invisible joysticks. It just makes you crazy. It's something we felt astonishingly strongly about is top to bottom. You have to design a game type for the screen. QTEs are completely blasted on consoles because they are not super fun to do, if you're just pushing a button. But one of the reasons that we feel that those heavy rain type motions play so much better on the touch screen is because you're interacting with it. Like you're moving something around physically in response to your touch. It's more challenging. And I think if you look at the problem from like not trying to emulate the same game types that you do on consoles on a touch screen. I think if you're optimizing it from the word go, I think you can really design things that are special.
My hands-on time when we were at PAX, I enjoyed, like, I'll be a console gamer for a moment. I hate QuickTime events.
Sure.
But I actually enjoy, like, on a touch device, and the way your battle system is integrated in the special attacks are, QTE based, but it doesn't seem like they're memorizing, hit this button or a button combo. It's actually, hey, look, draw a square, circle, the various types of interaction with the device you guys have done is really good.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Awesome.
We've driven Maria Enderton, our lead programmer, absolutely crazy doing this. Because I mean, it's so important to have it feel responsive. And I'm a design nut when it comes to interface work, and we have sent it back and forth for so many iterations. And I feel like it's gotten to the point where we're very happy with it. But we're literally trying to do a game type that has never been done on this platform, and it's been extremely challenging, solving all these engineering problems for the very first time.
What are some of the features that are available on iOS specifically that you guys are integrating into the game? I know iCloud is part of that.
I think I need to take this one, Amanda. You can get the next question.
Right.
Right. This is a little more technical. So we're using the iCloud API for Mass Effect has you save your save game on the hard drive. We have the problem that I don't know about you guys, but after I beat like a 2 gig game, I want it off my Apple device. So what we're doing is we're using the KVS value systems in the iCloud API, and it will be uploaded after you beat the game to iCloud. So the next time you buy a game, it can just read those values, and you can continue with this one save across it, no matter what. So we're using that. The rest of it is really, as far as Apple functions, that's really the main one. I would say one Apple function that we're trying to stay away from as much as possible are microtransactions. I believe that they really pollute the trust that the gamer has in the gameplay experience. So we're trying to just charge a flat rate up front and let people play our game, and not have their energy slowly draining, and pay 99 cents and have some magical meter have you come back. I hate that, and I'm willing to bet that other gamers agree with me.
Say, I can guarantee you most of the people in our community would agree 100% with you. What inspired the art direction for the game?
Oh, sure. Amanda?
Oh, well, they're based off of Bree's drawings, actually. And her style, very anime heavy, and just pouring over that kind of frenetic feeling, kinetic, excuse me, that was the word. Actually, Bree, you should probably, I mean, it's your art style, you should probably talk about it.
I tend to talk too much, so I'm just trying to not do that. Yeah, it's my art style. I've been drawing these girls since I was 8 years old. I started off, I loved Jim Lee when he had his first run on the new X-Men series. I really loved that. I was very inspired by his work. I love Sailor Moon very strongly. And yeah, I just really fell in love with anime from the word go. So if you're looking at my art style, I feel like you're seeing kind of a hybridization between comic books and anime. And my characters are extremely tall and extremely skinny. I think the girls are very attractive. We get that comment a lot. But it's also they're all really fleshed out as people. Because our game is so plot heavy, you're really going to get to know about all of our characters as people, and you're going to get inside their head and understand, how they tick. So I think it's a really interesting thing, because I think generally speaking, when you see all-girl casts in video games, I feel like it goes more towards Dead or Alive more often than it would, really fleshing out some characters and letting you come to understand them. So that's really what we try to bring across in our art style.
And with the art style being brought up, what inspired the I know this is usually a question that was brought up a lot when I was at PAX regarding your game, was the all-female cast, which is, there's a lot of debate within the industry about, I know The Last of Us had a lot of debates about whether or
Hmm.
not featuring females on box art does anything and all
Hmm.
this other stuff. What inspired to go the direction of an all-female cast, though?
Amanda?
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was, it wasn't one of those things that we said, we're going to make a game that's all girls. Like that, it wasn't, we weren't trying to push an agenda or anything like that. In truth, what ended up happening is we had a professional modeler, build our first model for us. And it was such an iterative process, trying to get it just right and get the thing rigged, that it ended up costing us like this ridiculous amount of money. So, we had this great model and we're like, all right, now what? So, what we ended up having to do was take that model and manipulate it ourselves. And, there was some back and forth with the modeler a little more, with costumes and stuff. Um, and we ended up with, 4 female casts all based off of that model. We actually had a male character in the script that we ended up having to cut because we couldn't get it in there. So the fact that it's an all female cast, what we're trying to do, hopefully, with the writing and the acting and just the gameplay in general, is that just is kind of secondary. It's a spy game, and it happens to be that the girls are all spies, and the spies are all girls. But that's really kind of after the fact. We just want it to be a fun spy game, kind of a setup.
I think that's well said.
Very well said.
Cool.
In your FAQ, you mentioned some of the limitations in the mesh of the characters. Why focus on something like hairstyles?
Sure. So you've played Mass Effect. Have you ever made a femshop for a playthrough?
Yes, I
Okay.
have.
How many of those hairstyles did you think did not suck?
When I played it on PC, this is why I find mods.
Right. They're all terrible, right? They're all universally bad. So what we wanted to do, something I really feel is that, as women in the industry, I think Amanda and I can sit there and look at a mesh that someone's created for hair, and we can analyze it and think about, why does that suck? Why does that work? And having hair that was attractive was, I feel like it's a large part of what makes women pretty. So the thing is, if you look at Infinity Blade, this is a game where the characters have 22 bones in them. Now, bones is an animation term. What you do is you have a geometric mesh, and then you put bones inside of it to have an arm move or a wrist move or a leg move. So Infinity Blade has 22 of those. For us, with the facial animation and having the hair movable so it won't clip the shoulders, we are well above 75 bones in our characters, which has an immense computational cost. So what we had to do is we had to sacrifice some things to have that work. So we had 2 choices. We can have Mass Effect hair, or, hair like a Bethesda game has, which is equally bad, no bones in it, just looking very flat and lifeless. Or we can actually put the bones in the hair and have it, look prettier and make the characters more appealing, but that has to come at a cost. And what we chose to, take away from was our costume budget. So if you look at our characters, they are all wearing very form-fitting kind of, Miranda-like bodysuits. And the reason for that wasn't we wanted to have them all sexified up. It was because we were breaking the engine already with our draw calls. We have 2 draw calls where it really should only be 1 for everything the character does. So again, it's one of these things that was more of a, like having an all-female cast was a strict matter of money. Having our characters in more form-fitting outfits was very much a performance issue.
You guys have said that you don't want to waste a single moment of the player's time. You had mentioned this when we were at PAX. Why is padding such a common thing in video games? Filler, what you call it, whatever you want.
Sure. Amanda, do you want
to? I wouldn't. I mean, I can't really talk to other people's motivations. I would say, if they don't have enough story, sometimes, the filler gets thrown in there. So many people are so fixated on gameplay mechanics, it seems that the story ends up being secondary, whereas we started with the story and we're trying to tailor the gameplay mechanics to the story, and we wanted it to be enjoyable and not a lull, not filling space with just anything. Like I can't animate, more than I'm already animating. We got to get this guy out there.
Right.
So, it really forces us to kind of be surgical with what we do put in and making sure that we're delivering as much, agreeable content as we can. And we go through the script and we're like, do we actually need this part? Nope. Gone. You really just have to, with such a short game, just be methodical with it.
I think, Rev 60 is about 2 to 3 hours long, and I could very easily pad that out to 6, 7, 8 hours. And the way I could do that is we already have the combat engine built, and I could just make you fight enemy types as you go through the station. It's like you have this feature built. It's no problem for me to force a player to go through it, and I think that's a choice many games make. You have your battle engine built, you have your static meshes built, just give the player more. But my approach to it as an adult is, I don't know how you guys feel, but it is hard for me to find time to sit down and really play a game. So whereas when I was, a child, I had all the time in the world to, find the pink tail in Final Fantasy IV with the 1 in 64 and a 1 in 64 chance of getting it. I just don't have that amount of time these days. So I really appreciate experiences that really think about pacing the way a good movie does and doesn't waste a second of your time. So you can go through and we could double the number of battles, but we're looking at do the battles add to the story? If you have a battle here, does this add to the pacing? Does this help it be a more intense experience? Does this make the player more involved? And that's the question we've had from the very beginning.
I think with having a story that kind of morphs, personally for me, if you have a story that morphs around with player interaction, player choice, it has that replayability that drives the person to want to play it more. So on the same note, that in and of itself, to me, extends the game. So it's like you said, a 2 to 3 hour game might be 8 to 12 for another person because of that's how they view it. For me, I will be the first to say I hate grinding in RPGs. It's annoying as crap. I hate having to go in. Oh, hey, look, you need to be basically this level to get to the next part of what drives most people in an RPG type game or a story focused game to proceed. It's
the means to the end.
Yeah, it's quite annoying.
That was always my least favorite part about the Final Fantasy series. I mean, I loved them. They're a huge influence on me. But I was really playing to get to the next cutscene, Yeah. I was playing just so I could get to the next part.
Right.
That grinding was never my thing.
And I feel like that's a game design choice that, has come and gone. In the late 80s, early 90s, you could have a final fight and it worked. But, today, the reason we don't have beat 'em ups anymore is because that kind of game type is just not sophisticated enough for today's players. And I feel like in that same way, endless grinding it's not fun anymore. Like we can do more, and it's just even after Revolution 60, whatever game we go on and develop after this trilogy is done, like our company will never put out that kind of product because I just don't enjoy it.
So we'll wrap this up a little bit. When can people expect this game to be shipping?
So right now our plan is to get this out in September. I will say that right now it may take a month or two after that. We're not going to be one of these companies that ships a game before it's ready. If we need a month or two or 6 months longer, that's what we're going to do. We will put this out there when it's polished. But as of right now, I think it's a safe bet to say you'll be able to play it before the end of the year.
Right now it is iOS specific. We'll be seeing it potentially on other platforms, PC, Android,
sure,
et cetera, et cetera.
We love Android. I think Android is a great platform. And what the thing is, though, is that because Unreal, we're working with Unreal. So we're really hoping that once they add Android support into the Unreal Engine, that we'll literally do a port ASAP and bring that to Android. So we're really looking forward to that happening. As far as PC, we'll have to negotiate a license with Epic. We use their engine, they have to get paid for it. So assuming we'll be able to come to something with Epic on using Unreal for PC, we can definitely compile a binary for that. Also, if our game does well and people enjoy it, you can look towards the consoles. I myself am a console gamer. Vita dev kits are only $1,000, and there's a lot of talk about bringing some of the middleware you need to put it on Vita out there. It would be a great fit for the Vita touchscreen. So what we're doing right now is we're focusing on iOS first, but I think you can count on it coming to other platforms.
Very nice. Glad to hear that. So, with that being said, where can people find you on social media and your various websites?
Sure. Amanda, do you want to go first?
Well, I can kind of be found on the App Developers Network and email through the Rev60 website. Our website is revolution60.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then our Facebook is /what is Revolution 60. You can find us there. I know Bree is very, very active on ADN.
Like psychotically active.
Yeah, might need a program.
Yeah. So do you know what app.net is? Do you know what app.net, ADN?
Personally, no.
Okay. So basically what happened is they put out, Dalton Caldwell put out this alternative to Twitter. I don't know if you followed any of the geek politics, but a lot of people are frustrated with some of Twitter's choices, like shutting out third-party, developers from the Twitter API. And ADN is an alternative social media that's come along. And the idea is you pay for it. So unlike Facebook, where they're basically collecting all the data you're putting in it, they just charge a flat fee a year. And if you're looking for the coolest, most interesting people on the internet, I cannot recommend ADN enough. So if you want to talk to me, I'm on ADN, and that's at SpaceKat Gal. That's SpaceKat with a K, and that's also my handle on Twitter, though I'm a lot less active on Twitter.
And to wrap this up, state of the industry, women in gaming.
Oh, you bring up the most difficult topic for the end.
I was gonna say these are the topics that we look at. So
Oh gosh, Amanda, do you want to say something about it?
Oh, well, give me a jumping off point, like because it is such kind of a broad
Um,
topic at this point,
the,
which is good. I mean,
there's been there was a recent study where was it 96% of all developers are 31 male and childless. If this
That's about right. Yeah, that's
yeah.
factual. Yeah.
4% are women. I- what do you feel it's going to take for more females to get into gaming, so that we don't have this giant gender divide that it seems to be taking place?
Well, I think it's actually the tides are turning on
Hmm.
that. I mean, if you look at the demographic of just gamer in general, like the gamer world, it's already starting to be almost a 50-50 split. I mean, we make up 40% of the market now. So, anybody who doesn't realize that and jump on that is really missing out.
Hmm.
And a lot of game companies, I think, are starting to figure that out. And if they're not, independent developers are.
Oh God, yeah.
Um, and I think what it's going to take to keep pushing that is more people like us who are just like, you know what, I'm going to do it myself, and I mean, I'm looking at the school groups that I've seen recently that I've talked to,
Hmm.
and half the class is female. So, I mean, I think it's becoming more accessible, especially since things like Steam came out and, the iOS developers kit and, stuff like that that really made it more accessible to everybody. With that comes more accessibility to women, encouraging girls to get into engineering, get into math, get into coding, I think it's already starting to flip. And I think hopefully by the time my daughter is my age, it will be much more equal.
Hmm.
Gloria Steinem was saying, we're like 50 years in and it's going to be another 50 before things are where they should be. But, that's just statistically how it goes. And we just got to keep doing the best we can and just do our thing.
I think, yeah, this is a topic I feel very passionately about. Just about every employee at my company is a woman. And yeah, I feel tremendously strongly about giving women opportunity in the industry. But I do think that, so I think the first thing that has to happen is, can we curse on your podcast? Is that allowed?
Is it
No?
encouraged?
No? Is it encouraged? Is that okay?
Well, we are not worried about being filtered on
All right,
iTunes.
all right,
So,
good. So the first thing is you have to really know your shit. That is up there for any game developer. This is a tremendously technical field, and you have to really, really, really want to be there and really, really, really have a passion for this, because this is an industry where just because you like games does not mean anything, and you have to have a technical area and really, really be passionate about it. But what I've found at our company is that I feel like, generally speaking, with some of the men I've worked with in this industry and some of the women I've worked with in this industry, I feel like some of my employees with the best attention to detail have been women, and this is a huge advantage for working in game dev. Um, so I think that we certainly have the capabilities, but we have to socially start learning these technical skills as soon as humanly possible. I think the other thing is I think that women have things like children come up, and I think that we don't really work together in the same way that guys do. So when it's such a male-dominated field, I feel like the rules are really stacked against us. So I feel tremendously strongly that you need women in leadership positions being leaders for other women, and kind of giving everyone a fair shake. I feel like that is tremendously important. Look at the game dev industry. Tell me how many female CEOs we have. I mean, this is part of the problem. There are no women involved whatsoever with that, with any of the play testing, and that's epidemic in the industry. And one of the problems you have is when it's all guys around. I don't know a single like sexist jerk in the industry. I really don't. But I think that when you have an absence of women, guys don't really sit down and think about this stuff sometimes. I don't think like, hey, are we including everybody? It's really something that gets on your plate, even with guys that don't mean anything, hostile whatsoever. And I think that until we get women involved in, the entire process, I think these problems are going to continue to perpetuate.
Yeah, I think it's just us being advocates for ourselves and saying,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
we want to play too. So.
I definitely agree. I mean, like Amanda, you mentioned, I think it's the ESRB said that 40% of all gamers are, female now.
Right.
And if you aren't looking at that demographic, well, you're basically essentially shooting yourself in your own foot.
You're leaving money on the table.
Sure.
Exactly. And, that's just bad business all around.
Sure.
I mean, so I definitely understand, and that's why we advocate for getting rid of like I think a lot of it is a marketing thing. People still associate like the term gamer or you have the same issue in the technology field in general, where it's people assume an admin or a sysadmin or someone who deals with a server rack is the guy, the dorky guy with Office Space, the dorky guy with the glasses and whatnot. And that,
you mean he's not?
No, I'm pretty sure he isn't. He's not asking where his stapler is.
Milton, just pass.
You're gonna go work in the boiler room now. But I think it's a marketing issue too. I think a lot of the marketers assume that gamers are still that male dominated segment, and that is not the case anymore. And I don't think that the message is quite caught up with the demographic.
I think that's very perceptive. I agree. You sometimes try to talk to guys about this. Like, can I give you an example? I pre-ordered Transformers Fall of Cybertron. I'm not a huge Transformers fan, but it's made with Unreal, which means I'm going to get it so I can study it. And I get it. And the developers had said, hey, RC is going to be in our game, the only female Transformer. And I get the game, and there are no women in it to play in any of the multiplayer, which is one of its biggest features. And they just drop it out and don't even think about it. And something that's tremendously important to me is to be able to play as a female characters in games where that makes sense. And Starhawk completely spaced this. It's constant stuff that we don't feel we're not included in the conversation. And I'm not even talking about games where the sexuality is so over the top that Amanda and I look at each other and roll our eyes. I mean, there are all these kinds of problems in ways that we don't even talk about as gamers. Or if we do talk about it, like, what was the girl's name, Amanda? The Anna Sesperian, whatever her name was, that she did the documentary.
Oh, Anita Sarkeesian.
Yeah, Sarkeesian. She got threatened.
Like death threats.
Yeah, death threats, rape threats. It's tremendously. It's easy for me to understand how a lot of women kind of say, this is a boys' club. I don't feel welcome here. I don't feel safe. And
I'm not going to get involved.
I'm not going to get involved. And what we need are male gamers that will stand up to male gamers that propagate this kind of behavior and to be our allies. Your voice matters more than mine does. We need allies here.
And with that, I want to say thank you to Amanda and Brianna for joining us on our podcast. And you guys from our community know where to find us.
Awesome.
So with that, we are done.